Out of the corner of my eye, I saw Mudaravita enter the room. He was dressed in a suit that declared its vintage as circa 1970s. The trouser legs were flared, while the belt line that must have once hugged his waist was rolled up and tied around his waistline with an old tie. He wore a bright green shirt with the collar covering that of his jacket. On his head was a hat of the kind of the men his age, but his was set at a rakish angle, almost covering one eye, and on his feet was 1/3 of his pension. "Ko Michael Jackson ka," said Jeremiah as we nudged each other. Mdara Vitalis gave us a casual nod as he, showing no signs of painful feet, slowly walked to the dance floor. And then he danced. Mdara Vitalis danced them all off the dance floor to the sidelines. He knew all the latest dances and the oldest too. We gaped at his Reebok and his water pump. He stunned us with his Running Man. He killed us with his robot, and his snake dance and break dance made us stand and say, "Oh!" The floor cleared until only he and the fashion and fabrics teacher were dancing. Mdara Vitalis was here. The fashion and fabrics teacher was there. And then Felicitas put on Chamunorwane Beta and the Glare Express. As the first strains of Tambai Mese Mujairirane filled the room, we saw Mdara Vitalis transformed. He wriggled his hips. He turned his back to us and used the vent at the back of his jacket to expose his bottom as he said, "Pesu, pesu," moving the jacket first to one side, then to the other. "What's that waist?" I said to Jeremiah. "Chova George," said the district commissioner. "If only I was a woman," said Jeremiah. That last dance sealed it. The fashion and fabrics teacher conceded the floor. By popular acclaim, Mdara Vita was declared the Mpandawana dancing champion. It was a night Mpandawana would not forget.
An excerpt for Two Fighting for Me by Shirley Hughes. He peered through the crack in one of the doors, then opened it a tiny bit and a little wider and peered around. And there, as large as life, was that cheeky Jim. Arthur felt like punching Jim, but he couldn't, because Jim was bigger than he was. Besides, he wanted to find out more about this girl. She looked rather nice, though a little skinny. She was certainly not a spook. Jim started to explain, "This is Mary and she," but at this moment, the terrible, ghostly screaming was heard in the hall. It was just outside the door. In rushed a bony figure, all in black and wild white hair, waving its stick-like arms about and gobbling like a goose in between screams. "Go away! Ah! Go away! Shriek! I'll have no lads in here! Ah! Gobble, gobble, gob! Get out! Get out!" Jim and Arthur both dived under the dust sheets and crouched there like a couple of ghosts themselves. They were trapped! But Mary was speaking calmly. "Come on, Gran, behave yourself. What about a nice cup of tea then?" It wasn't a witch, it was Mary's granny. But she was very nearly as frightening.
It was a bright, cold day in April, and the clocks were striking 13. Winston Smith, his chin nuzzled into his breast in an effort to escape the vile wind, slipped quickly through the glass doors of Victoria Mansions, though not quickly enough to prevent a swirl of gritty dust from entering along with him. The hallway smelt of boiled cabbage and old rag mats. At one end of it, a coloured poster, too large for indoor display, had been tacked to the wall. It depicted simply an enormous face, more than a meter wide. The face of a man of about 45, with a heavy black moustache and ruggedly handsome features. Winston made for the stairs. It was no use trying the lift. Even at the best of times, it was seldom working, and at present, the electric current was cut off during daylight hours. It was part of the economy drive, in preparation for Hate Week. The flat was 7 flights up, and Winston, who was 39 and had a varicose ulcer above his right ankle, went slowly, resting several times on the way. On each landing, opposite the lift shaft, the poster with the enormous face gazed from the wall. It was one of those pictures which are so contrived that the eyes follow you about when you move. "Big Brother is watching you," the caption beneath it ran. Inside the flat, a fruity voice was reading out a list of figures which had something to do with the production of pig iron. The voice came from an oblong metal plaque, like a dulled mirror, which formed part of the surface of the right-hand wall. Winston turned the switch. The voice sank somewhat, although the words were still distinguishable. The instrument, the telescreen it was called, could be dimmed, but there was no way of turning it off completely.
An extract from Fabulous Holiday for Geronimo by Elisabetta Dummy. As soon as Pinky left, I called my travel agency, the Wonder Rat. Mrs. Samantha Sweetpaws answered the phone. "Mr. Stelton," she cooed, "I'm sending you to the most fabulous place. It's called Happy Tail Island. It's one of the hamster islands far, far away from civilization. You'll be on a beautiful private beach. The water is crystal clear. The coral reef is teeming with fish, and the view is spectacular. You leave tomorrow at 7 a.m. sharp." I clapped my paws. The place sounded perfect. A quiet beach all to myself. I couldn't wait to leave. I'd had enough of this rat race. That evening, I packed my suitcase. I put in a swimsuit, flippers, goggles, sunglasses, and a suntan lotion. I would take my laptop too, so I could write in peace. And of course, I would bring lots and lots of books. I love to read on holiday. As I packed, I began to sing. "Ah, the sea, there's nothing like the sea.